you can see from the title that we're pretty excited. We finally made it. It's been a long time coming. So what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of how'd that happen, to build on what Chuck just told you, and what do we do now, which is an ongoing effort. I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off for the last 2 weeks. So without further ado, an overview of our program, just so you kind of understand where we're coming from. Our program was established in 1978 with the passage of the California Urban Forestry Act, which is in our Public Resources Code. It's a very broad and well-written piece of legislation, and it governs what our program does. We view ourselves as a technical assistance program. We have 6 regional urban foresters and a program manager and 2 analysts. And we are a technical assistance program that can also do other things, like public and professional education, encouraging research and technical transfer of information. For instance, we have no qualms about funding Dr. McPherson to do research when we think there's a need, because we often find that we are kind of on the edge of where the research has gone and we need new research. We do a lot of public events related to Tree City USA and grant awards and other things like Arbor Week. We do a lot of regional and local advocacy. We can't really do advocacy on the state level except within state government, which we do. We foster partnerships, connect people. We view, since there's so few of us, what's one of the best things we can do is help connect people who are doing things so that they can bounce ideas off each other and find ways to work together. And then we do grants to further urban forestry efforts. And that, as Chuck said, that's $17.8 million from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund for our fiscal year 2014-15. We are mid-grant advertisement right now. And this last year, including carryover funds, we received a grant from the USDA Forest Service for $1.28 million. And what we leveraged that money with our state money to accomplish things that we can't necessarily do with greenhouse gas reduction funding. So first, a little bit of background. The strong enabling legislation, as I mentioned, which was updated both in 2008 and 2010, it has specific references to the Global Warming Solutions Act, AB 32. So there's a very strong tie in our policy with climate change policy. That was a big key and a big feather in the cap of California Relief to make that happen, as well as other partners. And also we have a very solid 5-year plan that was created by our advisory body, the California Urban Forestry Advisory Committee. And that's an official advisory body to our director, who's our state forester. And so that governs what our program will be doing. It's a very, very strong document to have as you advocate for why your program is attractive to put funding to. Urban forestry defined in California means cultivation and management of trees and associated vegetation in urban areas. It's very important that it's not just trees. Forests aren't just trees, and neither are urban forests. For their present and potential contribution to the physiological, sociological, economic well-being of urban society. So a very broad definition, very important to have a broad definition. So cross-cutting policy work, this is a lot of what I spend my time doing, is finding ways to integrate urban forest policy into other areas. Areas like our Strategic Growth Council, which deals with kind of regional planning and sustainable community strategies. We've woven urban forestry and greening in throughout their policy area, as well as the Office of Planning and Research. They're the ones who provide guidance on what general plans have to contain at the local level in California. So that's a big audience for us. The Air Resources Board, they're in charge of cap and trade funding. So another one, real important to us. Department of Public Health, some of our strongest advocates are from the public health realm these days. The Natural Resources Agency, which is the agency that's over CAL FIRE and numerous other natural resources related agencies, it's very important that they buy into what we're trying to accomplish. Caltrans controls a lot of property in California along freeways, and there's a big opportunity to do urban forestry there. And then the Department of Housing and Community Development related to low-income housing and so forth. There's a lot of places, a lot of opportunities there to improve the life of people. And then finding common policy ground. You got to really listen to people. What are they trying to accomplish, and how can you help them do that? And then our role is to stand up for best management practices. You can't just pay urban forestry lip service. It has to be considered upfront in a meaningful way. And so that's one of my strongest roles, is to really advocate for that. Don't just put a sentence in your policy that says you should do this. Talk about the best management practices, to consider it up front. And then raise the profile of urban forestry in general through outreach and education. So you can see some examples of that here, where we have other state agencies with web pages and documents that specifically refer to urban forestry as a useful tool in what they're trying to accomplish. We, in fact, lead a public health implementation for urban and community greening. We also have the Office of Planning and Research has an urban forestry web page for their planning audience that refers them to us as well as other resources in the urban forestry realm. There's some specific talk about it on the California Climate Change portal as well, and in the state's extreme heat guidance as a mitigation strategy. You have to show them the value of what you do for them, not because of some altruistic motive. Yeah, everybody likes trees, but that's not enough to get you to onboard those who are not traditional partners. Be willing to compromise. You have to compromise sometimes. We would never compromise best management practices, but short of that, everything's negotiable. Insist on an equal partnership. We view partnerships, they have to be equal. Our partnership with California Relief isn't us kind of telling them what to do. It's an equal partnership. There's things that they do that we can't do, and there's things that we do that they can't do. It has to be equal. Be willing to invest time in things that are important to them, not to us, to them. So, if it means taking time out of our day to go speak to one of their key audiences about the value of urban forestry in relation to their policy area, then we'll do that. And don't focus too narrowly on your issues. Urban forestry is broad. It has something for everybody, and shame on us if we don't take the long-term big picture approach, because that's really what we're all about. Be willing to institutionalize their issues. We've done that with the public health realm by leading an implementation plan for them. And we do that also by reviewing other agencies' grants. So besides our own grant programs, we do grant review for 3 other state agency grant programs that have something to do with greening. That's a good way for us to influence how that money is spent and to ensure that best management practices are accomplished. Take the long view. It's always about the long view. It's hard to see that sometimes when you're endlessly attending other people's meetings and not seeing results, but it ends up paying off. Chuck went into AB 32 and SB 535 a little bit. AB 32 is the Global Warming Solutions Act. This slide is mostly to provide you with so you don't have to take notes on this. It gets a little bit boring to deal with legislation. Suffice it to say, the Global Warming Solutions Act has been a very powerful thing in California and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. And SB 535 is really about the disadvantaged communities. And I think an important thing to know is that of the roughly $16 million that we will be granting this year, all of it must be either in or serving directly a disadvantaged community. And the definition of disadvantage is still being debated. The tool that will be used is there. It's a very useful tool. And for us, it's a no-brainer. It's a good fit because, not coincidentally, disadvantaged communities are also the ones that have the least urban forest resources. So there won't be any complaint from us. The Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, really what it requires of us is that our projects have a positive greenhouse gas benefit. Now, the significance of the greenhouse gas benefit really will be competitive as far as our grants are concerned. There must be a positive benefit, but there's nothing in statute that says how much benefit. To us, the more the greenhouse gas benefit, the more attractive the project will be, because that's the purpose of the funding. If we only consider greenhouse gas benefits, urban and community forestry isn't the most attractive on a dollar per ton basis. However, the governor's office has specifically mentioned urban forestry as a strategy because of all the co-benefits and the fact that it can really improve the lives of people where they live. California is the most urban state at 94% urban population, so this is really a key strategy for state government to improve the life of people where they live. We have a solid, impartial, external and internal series of processes for our grants. We don't play favorites. Everybody competes for money. Nobody gets a handout. So if you're creating a grant program, you want to create your program with flexibility for funding sources so that you can accommodate multiple funding sources in your grant program and make it really user-friendly. To apply for one of our grants, you can apply for a $1.5 million grant right now to our department with a 6-page application that you submit online. So there's a second step if you're successful in that first step, but we really want to we don't want the application process to be a hurdle, especially for disadvantaged communities. So we have 5 different grant types. We have a tree planting grant called Green Trees for the Golden State. We pay for the tree planting costs, including such things as concrete cutting, tree establishment care, and yes, even a little bit of after-grant maintenance if they're successful with their project. Green innovations, which is green infrastructure projects like green roofs, community gardens, community orchards, stormwater capture, you name it. If it uses vegetation to solve problems, then it's probably eligible. Woods in the neighborhood, this is where it's very much like green innovations, but it also allows the purchase of urban parcels for such purposes. Urban forest management activities are things like municipal tree inventories and management plans, as well as mapping and analysis to inform those. And then urban wooded biomass utilization, this is something we've been focused on for some time by loaning out equipment. This is the first time we've been able to put dollars to that, and we're hoping to get some really innovative projects to better use urban trees that oftentimes in California unfortunately end up in the dump, which is just a huge waste. Again, it's a 2-stage application process. They apply with a concept proposal. We rate those, and if they're successful, we invite them back for what we call a project application, which allows us to build a grant. Challenges, the greenhouse gas quantification and tracking. So science. Thanks, Greg. I mean, without Greg's work over the last decade, we wouldn't be able to put any kind of a meaningful quantification to the carbon that we are both sequestering and avoiding emissions. And that's the beautiful thing about an urban tree is it doesn't just sequester carbon, it avoids emissions. And the avoided emissions are actually more in most cases than the sequestered carbon. So you actually get double out of an urban tree what you would get out of a tree out in the woods from a carbon standpoint. And then disadvantaged communities. That's a challenge because we have to reach them, and we have to reach them in a meaningful way in ways that serve their needs. And they are the areas that need the help the most from an urban forestry standpoint. So again, it's a good fit for our program. We have a strong desire to improve disadvantaged communities, but we want to do it on their terms. They have the least canopy cover, parks, and open space for the most part. There are exceptions in California, but for the most part, you can see neighborhood boundaries and socioeconomic boundaries based on tree canopy pretty easily. And we'll do whatever we have to reach them. We've done 1 webinar and 6 workshops already. We're planning another webinar and another workshop. And you know, if there's additional steps that need to be taken, we'll take them. And they always have the opportunity for one-on-one assistance with us, which makes us actually unique in state government in that our technical experts are also our grant administrators and deliver our grants. So they can work with the technical expert and the person who's going to be approving their invoices. We have to find ways to overcome objections. One common objection is gentrification. If we improve our community, then our community will become gentrified. And we know that that's a challenge, and we are working with those who are advocates for disadvantaged communities to try and address those issues. We can reduce or eliminate our matching requirement of 25% if it becomes a hurdle for a disadvantaged community to apply. That's actually in our statute, in our enabling legislation. We finally can make establishment care and maintenance fully reimbursable during the life of the grant, and even endow entities with maintenance funds after the grant if their project is successful to continue to maintain what we've done. We allow for advancement of funds to nonprofits when justified. If there's a real cash flow problem, we can deal with that. We unfortunately can't do that for local governments. We would like to be able to. It may be something we consider in the future if we can get a legislation change. We give strong preference for job creation and other disadvantaged community needs. Again, disadvantaged communities need more than just trees, and there are a lot of jobs associated with trees. We've funded a study on that. There's over 60,000 urban forestry jobs in California alone. So we think there's a great opportunity to employ people in non-exportable jobs that way. Don't duplicate or don't dictate what they need. Listen to what they need. So listen to the community. That's something we'll be looking for in our grant applications. If it's not the disadvantaged community itself applying, is have they engaged the disadvantaged community to see what they want. And then help them find partners. If they haven't done urban forestry projects before, that's okay. We'll help hook them up with a partner so that we can get a successful project on their terms. And we're using Forest Service grant funds to support early action and outreach by us and partners on this. We are actually midstream in getting some of that rolled out right now. Greenhouse gas reductions, we're relying on Greg's science currently with the tree carbon calculator. We're going to be working to improve upon that as well going forward. And then we're pushing development of new science and tools related to greenhouse gas tracking. We actually have a leg up on most sectors in California in this way. And we're allowing some flexibility in methods and tools because some of our projects will be quite complex and they will be able to consider things other than just trees. And then we're making the costs of tracking and reporting on greenhouse gases reimbursable during the project period so it doesn't become a stumbling block. We're going to review applications to make sure there's a strong methodology and a strong greenhouse gas reduction. Thank you very much. You have my contact information there, and looking forward to questions later.